This coin was struck in the city of Ravenna in the year 477 AD, 1 year after Rome supposedly fell. It shows a Germanic king, but it carries the name of a Roman emperor. Roman weight. Roman design. Approved by the Roman Senate. If Rome collapsed in 476, somebody forgot to tell the people making the money. For 1500 years, we have been told a clean story. Rome was the greatest empire on earth. Then, in a single year, it ended. Barbarians at the gate. The last emperor, a teenage boy, dragged from his throne. It is one of the most repeated dates in history. September 4th, 476 AD. But the deeper you dig into the evidence, the stranger that story gets. Because on the ground, in the coins, in the letters, in the law courts, almost nothing changed that day. So what actually happened? And why have we been telling it wrong for so long? His name was Romulus Augustus. History remembers him by a crueler name, Augustulus. Little Augustus. He was somewhere between 14 and 16 years old. His father, a Roman general named Orestes, had put him on the throne the year before, in October of 475. Orestes did not do this for his son's benefit. He did it to rule through him. The boy had no army of his own, no political power, no say in his own fate. Then came the demand that broke everything. Germanic soldiers serving in the Roman army wanted land in Italy, payment for their service. Orestes refused. That refusal would end an empire. The soldiers who Orestes refused had a commander. His name was Odoacer. His origins are still debated by historians. Possibly Syri. Possibly Herolian. His father may have served under Attila the Hun himself. In August of 476, Odoacer's troops proclaimed him king. Days later, they caught Orestes near the city of Piacenza and executed him. His brother died defending Ravenna. Then Odoacer entered the capital. He found the boy emperor. And here is where the story stops matching what most people expect. Odoacer did not kill him. He gave Romulus a pension, 6,000 solidi a year, the income of a wealthy senator. And he sent him to live quietly in a villa near Naples. The most feared warlord of his generation looked at the last emperor of Rome, a frightened teenager, and simply let him live. Here is what almost nobody learns in school. Odoacer never called himself emperor. He sent Rome's imperial regalia to Constantinople, to the Eastern Emperor Zeno, with a message: the West no longer needed an emperor of its own. Then he did something stranger still. He kept the Roman Senate running. He kept Roman law in force. He minted coins with the letters SC, Senatus Consulto, by decree of the Senate, the first coins to carry that mark in over 200 years. The contemporary writer Cassiodorus recorded that Odoacer ruled as a king, but never wore the purple, never claimed the imperial regalia for himself. Roman aristocratic families kept their titles. Roman law still applied to Roman citizens. The aqueduct still ran. The Senate still met. If you had walked through the Forum in Rome on September 5, 476, the day after the fall, you likely would not have noticed anything had happened at all. So if nothing really changed on that day, why do we still call it the fall of Rome? And more importantly, if politics didn't destroy the empire, what did? Because something clearly did happen to Rome. Just maybe not what you think. And the real answer is stranger, and far more relevant to us today, than a single boy losing a crown. The empire's real unraveling began centuries earlier, and it came from directions no army could fight. Around 165 AD, a pandemic now called the Antonine plague swept through the empire, and by some estimates killed roughly half the population in the areas it struck hardest. By the 3rd century, the empire fractured into civil war after civil war. Historians count more than a dozen legitimate and rival emperors across 50 years. The silver coin, the denarius, lost almost all its silver content, collapsing from near pure metal to roughly 5% silver by the 270s. Then, starting in the 3rd century and worsening after 450 AD, the climate itself turned against Rome. Terrain records from the Alps and Central Asia show the coldest decades in over 2,000 years arriving right as the empire was at its weakest. Scientists now call this the Late Antique Little Ice Age. Colder growing seasons. Failed harvests. Less grain, less tax revenue, fewer soldiers who could be paid and fed. And in 406 AD, on a night the Rhine River froze solid, tens of thousands of Vandals, Suebi, and Alans simply walked across the ice into Roman Gaul. The frontier that had held for centuries was gone in a single winter. By the time Odoacer deposed a teenage boy in Ravenna, the empire he inherited had already been bled for 300 years, by plague, by climate, by its own civil wars. Romulus Augustulus wasn't the cause of Rome's fall. He was simply the last person standing when the bill came due. Here is the detail that changes everything. Historians have spent decades treating September 4th, 476 as an exact, documented date. But recent research, published in 2024, looked closely at the surviving chronicles from that year. And they found something odd. The two most detailed contemporary records of 476, the Fasti Vindobonenses and the Octarium Prosperi Honians, describe the deaths of Orestes and his brother in precise detail. They say nothing about the exact day Romulus was deposed. Another source, the historian Malchus, suggests Romulus may have still held nominal power weeks after the date we now treat as sacred. In other words, the single most famous date in the history of the West, the day Rome fell, may not be a fact at all. It may be a convenient number invented by later chroniclers who needed a clean ending to a very messy story. So what actually happened to Romulus Augustulus, the boy who lost an empire? We know he lived. We know he received his pension. And then, sometime in the early 6th century, he simply disappears from every surviving record. No date of death. No grave that has ever been found. The last emperor of Rome didn't die in some dramatic final scene. He just faded out of history, the same way the empire itself did. Not with a single fall, but with plagues nobody could see coming, a climate turning slowly against an entire civilization, and a series of quiet decisions by people who, in the end, mostly just wanted to keep the lights on. Maybe that's the real lesson buried in that coin from Ravenna. Empires rarely die in one dramatic moment. They fade, coin by coin, harvest by harvest, until one day, almost nobody notices they're gone. If a story like this is worth knowing accurately, worth telling honestly, consider staying with this channel for the next one. There's more history that deserves a second look. Subscribe for more incredible stories from history, and become part of a community that believes the past still has something to teach us.